And I just went back and pulled a couple of polls just from the last year or two. There's so many of them. We asked election integrity question sets, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 times and all kinds of different questions. We try to get really creative. Here's one of our more creative ones. Stop me if you've seen this one before, but according to U.S. likely voters, 66% in 2023, 66% are concerned that the outcome of the 2024 presidential election will be affected by cheating. 40% very concerned. That's like third world levels of electoral confidence. It's absolutely horrifying. And even a strong majority, 55% of Democrats were concerned. 54% of Republicans were very concerned. 64% of independents concerned. And then this beauty. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? There is no way that Joe Biden got 81 million votes in the 2020 election. Sorry, not allowed to swear in the polls. But 49%, half of the country agreed with that, 33% strongly. How's that for the big lie? Not only are people super concerned about cheating in upcoming elections, like half the country agrees with the statement that song made so famous. And then there's voters out of their own mouths telling us they cheated. 1 in 5 mail-in voters admitted that they cheated in the 2020 election. That's crazy. That's crazy. And what this was is we asked a whole bunch of different ways, like, did you fill out a ballot for somebody else? Did you fill one for another state that you don't domiciled in? And if you add it all up, that's really crazy. Huge number. I think it was actually 28% committed at least one form of fraud. That's a lot of votes. It's a lot of votes. Then we got 62% are concerned about election and cheating. So that 66% wasn't an outlier. Even this year going into the election, the numbers were incredibly elevated, going to the crosstabs. This was a really big election set and hit a lot of really interesting things. We won't get digging too deep here, but one of the standout things was that in this poll, I think it was almost 9% of the U.S. likely voters who say they're going to vote in the election answered the question no or not sure to are you a U.S. citizen. That's weird. That's not how it's supposed to be. We can't get into that tonight. I have another video covering it. Pretty insane. We actually went to a senator's office with that one, and voters want cheating election officials punished. From October, a week before the election, are there election workers and officials who have enabled fraud in elections? 49% of U.S. likely voters say yes. Only 27% say no. Only barely more than a quarter can confidently tell you that there are not election workers who have enabled fraud in elections. Third world. Now, 24% are not sure, but I mean, that no number is really horrifying. It's only 38% of Democrats who say no. 62% of Republicans and 47% of independents say yes. Let's just see what the Biden approval numbers are. They're always interesting. This was asked back in October, so Biden was still president. 70% of Biden's strong disapprovers said yes, but 51%, a majority of Biden's strong approvers, said no. The biggest signal anywhere in the crosstabs. Really weird. It's always the biggest signal. Trump versus Biden. It's not party line anymore. That's where people draw the line. How likely is it that officials who have enabled election cheating will be held criminally accountable? Only 48% say likely. Only 26% say very likely. That's really sad. And then we even asked this, what should the punishment be for election officials found guilty of cheating? Like, listen, we were really trying to do some R&D here. I think nobody ever asked a question like this. And 22% said prohibit them from holding public office in the future. 9% said fines. 19% said prison sentences. And 43% said all three. So that's 62% who say prison sentences are all three. So over 6 in 10 Americans say that people should be in prison if election officials are found guilty of cheating in elections, and then another 2% say the death penalty. Interesting. So, yeah, make of what you will with that. Now we have this. We've asked on so many different measures, like how should election integrity be maintained? IDs, audits, and here's an example. This is from November, just after the election. Should disputes over election results be investigated fully, including the use of forensic ballot audits? Overwhelming support, 65% say yes, 17% say no. Even 63% of Democrats say yes. In fact, it's almost the same number as Republicans here, 63%, 64%. And even independents are more likely to say yes than anybody else. And only 17% say no. Should federal election laws require that all votes be counted and the final results be reported within 12 hours of polls closing on election day? People don't like California and Arizona voting for days and weeks. 63% say yes, overwhelmingly positive support. 23% say no. Even a majority of Democrats, 56%. So listen, even in California, the elected representatives are not upholding the will of the people. Should federal election laws require the use of paper ballots? First time we asked this question nationally, 59% said yes, 23% said no. And then we have this. So this is after the election, and it shows that people were paying attention, because after seeing the results and how they were counted, a lot fewer people said it was likely that the outcome of this year's presidential election was affected by cheating. It was down to 32%, only 17% very likely. And of course, Democrats this time were more likely than anybody else. And if you go to Reddit, there are now subreddits springing up of Democrats talking about how Elon Musk flipped the votes with Starlink satellites or something like that. So maybe we'll see groundswell support now for paper ballots, because Democrats might think that elections are rigged. I don't know. 42% of Democrats say likely, 25% say very. And then which election had more cheating, 2020 or 2024? And 18% say 2024, 42% say 2020. Democrats are actually kind of split. That's weird. 29, 24% this year, 2024, in the previous cycle. But Republicans, 63 to 13, say the 2020 election, and independents, it's 41% to 9%. And that brings us up to today. Election integrity, 60% favor requiring paper ballots. Like a no-brainer. Get it done. Let's get it done. You know, people like technology, but there's just some things, right? Federal retirement records don't need to be paper. We don't need to have a salt mine full of, thousands and thousands of boxes of, like something out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But votes are important. We have dollar bills. They have like a ton of different security measures. Why can't we have that for ballots? It's a no-brainer. Do you think hand-marked paper ballots are more trustworthy than touchscreen voting? And this was just this week. 41% say more trustworthy, 14% say less trustworthy, 38% about equal. And the party signal here, hand-marked paper ballots, 52% Republicans, more trustworthy, 14% less trustworthy. And independents and Democrats are kind of close together on this. There's not as big of a signal, but it's still a signal. 36% to 12% for Democrats. Paper ballots are more trustworthy. A lot of people aren't plugged in, and maybe don't connect this necessarily to election integrity. Maybe it's like, oh man, my voting might be a little bit less convenient. But would you support or impose enacting a law in your state requiring the use of paper ballots for all elections? And it's got 60% support, 38% strong support, but a really high level and not sure's. So only 26% oppose. So it's well over a 2-to-1 margin. That's like a gimme. That's like a slam dunk for lawmakers to get Republicans and Democrats to agree to this level, because Democrats, it's a majority, 51%, but Republicans at 72% and independents 55%. Now, this is one of the things that independents pull more like Democrats than Republicans. It's very rare, but it's still a majority. So do it. Would you vote to hand count and examine, would you volunteer yourself to hand count and examine the election ballots in a local school gymnasium on election night? Because you hear a lot of people concern trolling, oh, we can't do it, it's too hard, we can't, India does it. They have like 1 whatever billion people. They can do it. Why can't we do it? Well, we don't have enough election workers. Well, here you go. 56% of U.S. likely voters say they would volunteer. Only 28% say no. And by party, Democrats are almost as likely as Republicans to say they'll do their civic duty. 54% Democrat, 62% Republican. Really strong. Lots of young people, 57% of 18 to 39-year-olds. No signal across race. Even liberals, 56%. It's a gimme. The reason the number's not higher is because you have a 16% not sure. This is a 2-to-1 margin. This is about as strong as it gets on political related things, except for like voter ID. Like that one is, if this is a slam dunk, that's like a double slam dunk. Get her done. Trump, you got Congress, you got the Senate. This is a no-brainer. Slip it in. Get it on the docket. Let's get this one done. Maybe you can get it done before the debt ceiling snafu, before the government shuts down.